that. I want you to know that one of the things that's so great about the choir is that they are a relational group of people that understand that it's singing is about ministry, but it's also about calling together the people of God, because we can be called together through song in a way that helps warm our heart and gets rid of all the fears and the brokenness that we experience, which is also a part of our life. And to ignore it would be wrong. So in this sacred text today, some of you this week read my article and you sent me emails and said, but Pastor, we thought that this was the year of Luke. I can't tell you how excited I was to get those emails, because this is the year that we will study Luke's story, or Luke's gospel. But Matthew is important because it is the only gospel that includes the journey of the Magi, or the wise ones, or as this translation uses, the astrologers. And we are using, again this year, the Inclusive Bible translation because it is fitting for us as a congregation, because it presents the scriptures in a way that uses different kinds of language to be relational. And we want to be relational because the scriptures are active and applicable and relevant to our lives today. But let's unpack this a little bit, because I think there's some things in this text that we can identify with. The first of which is, as children, most of us heard the story of the wise ones that came to offer their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh, right? Right. Okay, so you're familiar with the story. And I love that Jenny picked music that talks about offering gifts. So pa-rum-pa-pum-pum. What gift will you bring? And in this song, the gift that is suggested is that you would play your drum well, right? And that God was pleased by that, because what you do well. And in doing it well, you bring honor to God and you bring honor to yourself, right? How wonderful is that? We celebrated that Chuck and Cheesy served the board well. Serve the board well. And we know that the incoming board will serve the board well. And we know that many of you serve this church well. The other thing that we get is, what is it from these songs that we sing that when we're thinking about giving our gift? What is it that we have, that God has given us, that we can use to give back to others, so that we are a blessing to one another? What gift can we offer that doesn't cost us anything? Lord, and behold, many of us are looking at our credit card bills going, Lord! But all of us have been given gifts from God that don't cost us anything. Many of the choir gives their gift of music that blesses us so much. Many of you give your gifts of time. Those of you who are retired can spend more time at church than others. And you can spend time at church at lunchtime, in the beginning of the day, rather than at the end of the day. And we are blessed by that. Some of you have the gift of giving. And so you exercise that gift. All of us have gifts given by God to bring blessing to others. Judaism is not a stranger to gift giving. Remember that at the beginning of the story, God blessed Abraham to what? Be a blessing to the world, right? And so our roots of Christianity come directly from Judaism, and that we can celebrate that. But the other thing about this text that I think is so exciting is that it reminds us that the astrologers, the Magi, came from a different land. They came from a foreign land. It was foreigners who followed the star. It was foreigners who came to worship. It was foreigners who, when they met and saw the baby Jesus, were filled with amazing joy that they offered their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I love that on our altar we have this scene to remind us that gifts were given, to encourage us to consider our own gifts, and also, and here it comes, to realize that oftentimes God works to bring blessing through people in different lands. People who experience life differently. People who come to share the origins of their culture in ways that we never imagined, and then we can celebrate. I loved this week an interview that I saw. Joy Reid interviewed Nancy Pelosi. And you know I stayed up for that. It was tough, but I stayed up to watch every word of it. And one of the things that I loved that Nancy Pelosi said, and there were many, but you're not going to hear all of them today. There were many things that she said that I thought were a blessing. The one thing that she said was, in America, what makes America great is that we are a country that set out to be a free country for all people. And I thought, ooh, that's good. Because I was thinking about this text. As the foreigners came to worship Jesus, God was saying, I am breaking through the boundaries of religion, the boundaries of culture, the boundaries of ethnicity, and I am going to bless the world by reminding the world that my love and my redemption is for all people. Is for all people. Nancy went on to say, and that when we get new generations of immigrants into this country, we are blessed because they bring a new way of thinking. They bring a new way of talking. They bring a new way of doing things. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. It's true. Just as God's love and grace, when we step into it by sharing our gifts, that God brings a new way of talking, a new way of thinking, a new way of doing things. As we live into the blessing of God's love and God's transformation that is available for who? For all people. Just not us. The other thing that Nancy said was that, and we are encouraged as Americans when we see immigrants come and thrive. So what can we do to welcome immigrants? What can we do as a country to help them get citizenship so that they can come in and thrive within our country? And as they do, we are reminded, yes, this is what it means to be Americans, that we affirm that all people are free to participate in life. Now, let's connect that with what God's love says. God's love says that each and every one of us deserve to know that we are loved in a way that we can thrive, that we can step into using our gifts given to us by the Holy One so that we can be a blessing. And as we do, as we use our gifts, we are blown away by seeing that it doesn't matter how broken we feel on the inside, we see people smile when we offer a gift to them, when we open a door for them, when we give a cup of coffee, when we extend a meal, when we say a kind word. People are blessed. And I got excited in a new way. Now, you know, politics and religion sometimes go together, but not so much during sermon time. But I have to say that the chief priests and scribes, the administration of Herod, right, they sought out to find the baby Jesus not to worship, but to destroy. And why did they do that? Because Herod was filled with fear. He was afraid that he was going to be ousted. There's one thing that I know about people in power. They will work hard to stay in power. Herod forgot that God had called him. God had put him in a position to be a servant, to come to serve and not to be served. Oh, right? Did you notice today, I asked our board of directors if they would lead with servant leadership. I charged them to lead that way, to lead in a way to serve and be a blessing. And I know that they will do their best to do just that. But also, we have a responsibility too. We have a responsibility to let them lead. We also have a responsibility to ask questions of them. Why have you made a decision? Why do you think it needs to be done this way? And not challenge every decision, but to try it out, to see if it will work. Herod forgot that the world was changing because of God's love and God's grace. May we not forget that. We as a congregation have come a long way. It's because we have been willing to seek out different ways of doing things. And lo and behold, we have experienced the profound blessing of God's amazing grace and God's love in this place. My first Sunday here, there were 37 people in worship, and as I left worship thinking, oh my goodness, Joy Whiteneck said to me, isn't that great? And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm in trouble. But people were so excited to have a new pastor, to have a new leader. And lo and behold, you have let me lead. Now, it isn't that I am so great, but it is the fact that with new life comes a new way of seeing things, a new way of doing things, a new way of talking, a new way of expressing the divine love that is within each one of us. That's what has caused all of the friends around you. Look around the sanctuary right now. Look around the church. Notice that we are more than 37 people. Notice that we do not all have the same color of skin. Notice that there are transgender people, there are gay people, there are lesbian people, and that there are straight people. Why is that? Because we have made a decision as a church to say that all people are welcome in this place because we want to extend God's love and grace to all people, just not a few. There is no longer an insider. There is no longer an outsider. And that too is what the Magi teach us. Outsiders came. Outsiders followed the star that led to the baby Jesus. It was the outsiders who said, can we worship? Are we welcome? God says to us that there is no such thing amongst God's people as insiders or outsiders. There is only community. And in community, we are blessed. We are blessed to be the people of God. Sometimes we will hurt. Sometimes we will be discouraged. But you know what? We know where to go with all of that. We know how to use our gifts to help people work through difficulty. We don't have to have all the answers. But what we can do is remind people that they are loved. We can support and encourage people through anything. We can extend what we have to those in need. And we follow God's love. Matthew's gospel, after the birth narrative and after the nativity, gets pretty dark. Matthew paints a world that is full of brokenness, a world full of drama, a world where people are not affirmed. And I think Matthew's gospel, even though it was written a long time ago, is pretty adequate in describing our world today, which is why we stand up and we speak up, which is why we share the joys of what it means to be the people of God, which is why we take out our glitter and continue to spread it around the world. Because the world is looking for hope. The world is looking for blessing. The world is looking for a place where they can come and know that they are loved just the way they are. And I believe we have the answer to that. Because we welcome all people here. We extend God's love to all people. Do you hear the chatter at the beginning of worship? I love it. We break bread together downstairs. We cry with one another. We pray with one another. We give of our gifts to one another. We remind to people that they deserve to be treated with respect and kindness, no matter who they are. Because we are made in the image of God. That's what it means to follow the star of Jesus. That's what it means to glow in the light. That's what it means to be in a moment of epiphany, of revealing God's gifts of love and grace, just the way we are. I invite you today as you leave church. Some of you will go downstairs and have lunch, and everybody is welcome. Others that will not go to lunch, I invite you to go down these steps and then go right next door and go up the brand new steps to the MCC Richmond Community Center and marvel at that building. This morning, people went through that building and they went, wow. George Floyd was like, wow. Marvel at how wonderful it is that we were led by people who followed the star of giving us a gift of $200,000 so that that building could be restored into a place where people will experience the love of community, where people will experience the grace of God in new ways, where people will grow, where people will get angry, where people will question, but that all people are welcome. We want to use this building and we dedicate it to God's service. But we need visuals so we don't forget that God is with us. We have not been forgotten, and we will never be forgotten. Go through that building, go upstairs, dedicate it to God, set your intentions on your stars that were given to you at the beginning of worship. Remember to write down your words. What would you do? What will you do to extend God's grace in this place? What do you want to see your church become this year? And put them in the offering plate. My hunch is we've only just begun. I'm not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. And there's a lot of people out there that are waiting to hear the glittery good news of MCC Richmond. Amen? Amen.